Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock, so we will get started. Welcome to the August Nutrition Support Monthly Call. This is Misty Woods, and I will be leading today's call. So here's today's agenda. We'll talk very briefly about summer EBT, some reminders. We'll do some SSO reminders, some things about the final rule again, equipment grant, and then the big topic will be the 24-25 NSLP application. We'll go over the memos that have been sent out since the last call, and then we'll go over some resources that are available and then discuss some upcoming trainings. So first, let's briefly go over some summer EBT or Sunbucks reminders. So the spreadsheet was due into the portal by 7/19, and basically it served two purposes. It was the full, complete roster of May 2024 and the indicators for each individual child of the eligibility status. There was weekly calls every Thursday that I believe have been extended into the month of August. But on last week's call, Tim with DCFS did note that there was a handful of SFAs that did not upload that spreadsheet yet. So please make sure to check with your data people or your SIS coordinators to make sure that they uploaded that file that was needed. I believe they were starting to reach out to those SFAs, but they asked for us to remind everyone to please check to make sure that those files were loaded. Or I should say that spreadsheet was loaded. And on this slide is different contact information for regarding Sunbucks. So if there's questions, you can still email the general email address and someone will respond. More than likely, they may tell you to contact the second contact on here, the Sunbucks support for technical questions. Also, there's a jot form for people that need the portal access. And then here's a link for the Sunbucks toolbox, and then as well as a link to the actual portal. So now let's go over some SSO reminders. So SFAs that operated in July, or even if they operated in August, SSO, they will need to complete their 24-25 application as soon as possible. What you need to do is you need to submit your application and then you will have access to the SSO waiver. It does not necessarily have to be approved yet, but you at least have to have that Schedule A submitted to make sure for that seamless waiver to actually be able to be completed. But if you have any questions along the way, you can please contact Trondra, and her email address and her phone number is on this screen, and she'll be happy to assist you with that. So some other reminders for SSO meals. If the site normally received severe need breakfast or the menu certification, which that's everyone, then those rates will continue for SSO. So during May and June, the sponsors will receive that 23-24 reimbursement rates, where if you operated in July and into August, you would receive the 24-25 reimbursement rates. So now I've gone over this several times, but I want to continue to go over it about the 2023 equipment grant, some reminders on the dates. The emails were sent out back in March, and it included the amount of the grant as well as the detailed instructions on how to request that funding. Both the authorized rep and the superintendent received that emails. You also, if you did not receive an award, you also received an email stating that. There's always that chance of a second allocation. So after the first allocation are processed and distributed, if there are any unused funds, a second allocation of those funds will happen, and we'll notify you at that time if a second allocation becomes available. So by September 30th, you must submit that purchase order or invoice. And then by October 21st, you must submit that request for reimbursement on the CMP website. And before we said this numerous times, there are different due dates, but if possible, please submit them at the same time because we cannot process the payment until both are received. And I believe Stacy has received several of them already, but we have a lot more to go. So to expedite that process, again, make sure you email that purchase order or invoice for each piece of equipment to stacy.griffin@la.gov and complete that online request for funding as soon as you have those funds obligated. You can always call or email Stacy for questions, or if you're uncertain if the documents that were whether they were received or whether it was the correct document that you sent in. Some important notes to remember: don't begin the procurement process or purchase the equipment prior to receiving that award. So if we see that something was purchased prior to you receiving the award, we probably will not be able to award that to you. Make sure that you obligate those award funds within 6 months, and that make sure you have to have that purchase order or invoice because it is required for proof to get that reimbursement. And then the 2024 grant, we mentioned this last month as well. We are in the process of finalizing the award agreement and then how we're going to score things. And it's a lot less than 2023. We were only allocated $166,137. So more information on that is to come. More than likely, closer to October is when we will probably release the 2024 grant. So, like I said previously, if you have any questions, please contact Stacy Griffin. Her phone number and email are on this slide. All right, big topic, 2425 NSLP application. It has been opened probably a couple hours ago. So it is open to everyone to start completing their 2425 application. This was not the original plan. I do apologize for the delay. We actually had opened up, we had a little hiccups, and then we started to do some testing. We ran up into some more hiccups. So I appreciate those SFAs that agreed to help us out during the testing phase, get those kinks worked out, but it is now open for everyone to go and complete their application. We are having a strong, strong deadline of Friday, August 30th this year. So you have to complete your application by August 30th. If you complete your application in September, you are running the risk of not being able to claim or submit claims for August, as we will not be able to backdate it. So please make sure you submit before the August 30th deadline or on the August 30th deadline, because we will process it as long as it's submitted in August. But if you submit in September, we can't guarantee you'll be able to submit that claim. If you did not log on to the Zoom training from July 30th, please make sure you refer to the recording and slides that are supposed to be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids today. I was hoping for it to be posted sooner, but there was a few things going on that it kind of delayed the process of it getting posted. But I'm being told by Pennington staff it will be posted today. But on today's training, we will focus on the basics from that training and some of the new items on the application. But for the most information on that, please refer back to the July 30th training. All right, so information on some of the forms within the application will populate into other forms. So it is important that you complete them in the following order. So you need to do the requirements, then the policy checklist, then the Schedule A, collection procedures, collection officials, and then the income and expense. And please contact us if you need additional assistance or have questions when completing the forms. But like I said, please refer to the application training as a reference. And if you're still having issues, then contact us and we'll be glad to help you. So forms that are not required are the waivers and the labor expenses and the menu certification. Menu certification is only required for new SFAs, and those that are new, we've been in contact with you already to start that process. But if you are a current or an existing SFA, you do not need to do the menu certification or the waivers or the labor expenses. So under requirements, it has four different sections. It includes the CNP permanent agreement, the program year agreement, the SAM.gov verification, and the CN data sharing agreement. And all four sections of this form must be completed by either the head of the organization or the authorized representative of your organization before you can enter anything into that Schedule A. And then the next thing, policy checklist, is a list of the essential policies and current year prototype forms. So some of the questions are, is the program pricing or non-pricing? It asks us about the public release, the income eligibility guidelines for free and reduced meals, the free and reduced price meal documents, the menu options, and audit requirements. And for continuing SFAs, it would be used to renew your agreement with LDOE for the participation in school food services. And then the Schedule A, which is the majority of your application, it consists of five parts. The sponsor meal info, the documents and certifications, the site participation list, the site meal info, and the severe need eligibility. And we'll go over some of the changes that happens in Schedule A for this year. The sponsor meal info section of the Schedule A contains several sections. It contains the average meal costs, the student breakfast and lunch charges, other meal charges, after school snack, food service management companies, RCCI section, software use, paid lunch equity, and CEP participation. So it's a wealth of information in this section. So, Schedule A documents and certification includes the following: the SAM.gov registration, the unpaid meal charges policy and document, the SFA procurement code of conduct, the SFA procurement procedures, the new section, which is the SFA higher threshold certification and document, wellness policy, and HACCP. And we'll go over that new section. So, the SFA higher threshold certification section is new. And for this section, SFAs will choose no if they are declining to use the higher threshold, or yes if they want to use the higher threshold. And on here, the memo is attached, as linked, I should say, to where you can read the USDA memo about the micro purchase threshold and using a higher micro purchase threshold. So if the SFA chooses yes, then they have to choose what option they qualify for. And on the screen, it shows you the different ways that you can qualify. And like I said before, please refer to that memo for more information. So program operators that choose to self-certify must prepare and include a justification. So if you choose that yes, that you are using a higher micro purchase threshold, you have to include a justification, a clear indication of the threshold that you are going to use, and then that supporting documentation. So if you choose, for example, if you choose that you're going to use the higher threshold for a low, because you're a low risk for audit purposes, you would need to attach proof of that. Excuse me. As a reminder, if you choose yes, Louisiana's the cap for us is $30,000 threshold. So the memo states 50,000, but for Louisiana, the max is $30,000. On one thing to note on the third option, if you choose yes, that the Louisiana does have a state law for higher threshold. So if you choose that third option, the memo that with the state law has already been attached. So you won't have to worry about attaching if you use option 3. But however, the USDA memo, as it's stated in there, this option three, I should say, is only for public institutions, and we will be checking for that. All right, in Schedule A, the site meal info section, the operating at multiple locations, that is a new section as well. So the first question of it is, does this site operate at more than one location, meaning more than one physical location? So you have a school site with a school name in Schedule A, but you're claiming students that are actually at another school site at a different address, but it's not in Schedule A. We need to know about this. Um, we had this issue arise when conducting administrative reviews where a site was chosen for a review. And when the reviewer came on site, there was actually a whole nother physical site location that we weren't aware of. So USDA noted it. We had our management evaluation. It was noted it there as well. So for this situation, you're going to have to enter in the additional location details to include the school name, the address, and city, parish, and grade levels. So again, whenever you log on to there, you're going to have to choose yes or no. And then if you choose yes, this is where you go in and you add that information. And it's very critical that you do this to make sure that we are aware of all sites that are operating. The income and expense report will look a little bit different from previous years. However, the form basically consists of the same information with a couple of things that have been added in. So page one is the income and reimbursement. Page 2AB is your expenses, such as your food used and labor and benefits. Page 2CDE is your equipment, other direct cost, and indirect cost. Page 3 is your net cash resources on June 30th. And page 4 is your allowable operating balance as well as a review page. So the information that's entered into this form is from the previous school year. So SFAs are entering the income and expenses for the 23-24 school year. And this is the only form that you will be entering prior year information. So you enter in the dollar value as reported in your system. You don't have to use dollar signs and you do not use commas. Text boxes that are grayed out cannot be edited, and these fields are normally populated from other forms. And the computer actually calculates all the values in the total columns. So if you need help with this, I really highly recommend that you reach out to your business office or your financial office to help with that. And you can also refer to Louisiana Accounting and Uniform Governmental Handbook, also known as LAF, for more information on the income and expense codes that are used in this form. So what about some new items on the income? So on page one of the income and expense report, there are new items. So the first item is 1B under the total federal reimbursement. So we added a section for supply chain assistance fund. SFAs will need to enter in the amount of SCA funds. I say not added, but we already had it in there, but just a reminder that we did receive a fourth round in November of 2023. So you need to make sure that you add those SCA funds. Equipment grant funds, SFAs that received equipment grant funds during the 23-24 school year will now need to enter in that amount there. And then another item is under the state funds, where if those of you that received reimbursement for those reduced meals because of the House Bill 1, Act 305, you will need to enter the amount of reimbursement you received for reduced meals in that section. Another thing that we added in, so the CNP website will determine if a corrective action plan is needed. So the excess net cash resources amount will be listed. And if a corrective action plan is needed, rather than attaching a spend down plan, like a form like you did in previous years, you will now be entering in the spend down plan into the actual application. So if it says that you need a corrective action plan, corrective action plan, you need to click on add item and enter in the estimated cost to spend down that excess cash. And I'll give you an example on the next slide. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the item description, the unit, the estimated cost and time frame that you're going to spend it. And then as you add the items in, the amount of the remaining amount will begin to decrease. And then you're going to continue adding items until the excess remaining amount reaches zero. If no spending plan items are entered, there will be an error message on the submit forms page. And here's an example. It says corrective action spending plan has not been provided. So it will not allow you to submit until you have entered in those items. And then if there are items, but the estimated cost does not cover the total amount that you need to spend down, you will also receive an error message saying excess remaining is greater than zero. You can spend more or you can put more into your plan, but you have to have at least get it down to zero. So next we're going to go over some of the memos that have been posted since the last monthly call. So on this slide is a list of memos. We don't have a whole lot, but we had a few that came in. So memo SFS 24-92 is about the geographic preference options, questions, and answers. This memo provides updated guidance on the geographic preference option to reflect the changes made by the final rule. It complements the geographic preference expansion related to the final rule and rescinds and replaces memos SP 18-2011 and SP 03-2013. Some notable changes can include the addition of the question and answers that address the use of local as a specification for local unprocessed agricultural products. It talks about the use of the term defined scoring advantage rather than geographic preference. A defined scoring advantage is used to help differentiate between, I'm sorry, I cannot speak today, y'all, the concept of a geographic preference option and the two strategies that can be used to implement it, and the reorganization of the Q&As into new categories for ease of use. Here's another memo about the reimbursement rates. It's memo SFS 24-94. On this screen is some snippets from the Federal Register of the reimbursement rates for NSLP, SBP, and after-school snacks. So for National School Lunch Program, we get a lot of questions about this. You will use one of the two columns that are circled in blue. Either you're going to be less than 60% free and reduced plus the 9 cents, or you're going to be 60% or more free and reduced plus the 9 cents. So the plus 9 cents is for that menu certification, which includes all SFAs in Louisiana. Please note we're not able to use the maximum rate of reimbursement. We have already verified this with USDA. And for school breakfast program, you will use either the non-severe need or severe need. So if you are unsure about what you should be using, please contact us and we will gladly walk you through it. Memo SFS 24-95 is about the August training schedule. So today is the August monthly call. On August 13th, we will have the same offer versus serve training that we've been providing at the back to school trainings. So if any SFAs that's still needed for their annual training requirement, please make sure to log on to that call on the 13th. On August 20th, we will have a training on the claims for reimbursement. And then on August 27th will be the same training that we're also providing at back to school training, the civil rights training. So again, if you have any SFAs that still need their annual training, please make sure to log on to that call on the 27th. Memo SFS 24-96 is about the state attendance factor for the 24-25 school year. Attendance factors must be determined prior to the beginning of each school year, and school board authorities can use the annually determined state attendance factor or may calculate a custom attendance factor. The attendance factor is the number found by dividing the total average daily attendance by the total enrollment. If an SFA wishes to utilize a custom attendance factor, the attendance factor form must be completed, and this form can be found on the CMP website under the general forms. The attendance is based on the average attendance for the entire previous year or for a particular representative month from the previous school year. The 2024-25 state attendance factor is 92.38. So as a reminder, please make sure to update the attendance factor in your software system. Unless a custom attendance factor is requested by an SFA, the default will be the state's currently approved attendance factor, with the exception of RCCIs, which have the attendance factor set at 100%. Memo SFS 24-97 is the 24-25 school year important due dates. To highlight a few due dates, like we said previously, August 30th is the NSLP online application due date. September 30th is the 2023 equipment grant, as well as October 21st is related to the 2023 equipment grant. As always, the November 15th is the verification process starts. January 10th is when the verification summary report is due. February 1st is when your on-site monitoring forms must be completed. And then April 15th will be the CEP population in eScholar. And then June 30th, the CEP elections. We have throughout the form also that it is recommended that claims are submitted by the 10th of each month. However, you do have your 60 days, but it was recommended that you are submitting by the 10th of each month. And please know that these due dates are subject to change and will be updated accordingly. We did put some summer dates. I believe it was in February. We actually moved up a lot of summer, so please expect to see some things being due in February for summer, much earlier than usual. The last memo actually came out this morning, and it's about the online application being open for the 24-25 school year. Please log on to the website and start completing those forms. Again, the deadline is August 30th. It's a Friday. It includes the requirements, the policy checklist, Schedule A, collection procedures, collection officials, income and expenses. And please refer, like I said previously, to that training that was conducted on July 30th, where we went through a step-by-step of each section. So on the next few slides, I've provided some resources that SFAs can use to help find the information they may need to start the school year back and just to use throughout the school year. So on this slide is several final rule resources. I had them linked on the last couple of monthly calls, but I want to continue to have them. So as we talked about before, on April 25th of this year, FNS published the final rule entitled Child Nutrition Programs, Meal Patterns Consistent with the 2020-2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans. And this rule finalizes practical, science-based, long-term school nutrition requirements based on the goals of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans from the 2020-2025. It also included extensive stakeholder input and lessons learned from prior rulemaking. So these resources on this slide include the updates to the nutrition standards, a summary of the provisions, the actual final rule from the Federal Register, a comparison chart of the proposed rule compared to the final rule, an overview video, and the implementation timeline. So please refer to each of these resources for more detailed guidelines, and I have each of them linked on the slide. So the Institute, I'm sorry, of Child Nutrition has a back to school toolbox. So you can browse ICN's back to school resources or even use filters to find the right resources that you may need. Some of them include some of the resources on this link provide back to school checklists and some I Learn back to school courses. So it's a very unique. I kind of went through it a little bit the other day, and it's actually can be very helpful if someone needs these checklists or just some things to get them ready to go back to school. But in addition, the Institute of Child Nutrition also has numerous other resources for SFAs. I took a snippet of some popular resources for school nutrition programs, and then also there has some I Learn, which are trainings that participants can do at any time, anywhere. So just click on the link and see what's available out there, and it may help you get some training in for your employees as well as yourself. So on this slide are the Code of Federal Regulations that we follow for school lunch and school breakfast programs. But also included on this slide are the federal regulations for determining eligibility, as well as some federal regulations related to procurement. So when we receive questions from SFAs, many of the times this is what we reference and cite in our responses. So if you've never had the opportunity or never took the time to go look through these Federal Regulations, I highly recommend that you do that because this is basically the rules that we have to follow. So when you get a chance, please go and look at those and check those out. We've had a lot of SFAs ask about Smart Snack resources recently, and here are just a few on this slide. Louisiana Fit Kids website has several resources on smart snacks. USDA has the guide to smart snacks in schools and tools for schools focusing on smart snacks. Another resource on this slide is the federal regulations, 7 CFR 210.11, and that's the federal regulations on the competitive food service and standards. And then also included is the Alliance for a Healthier Generation Smart Snack Product Calculator. So again, these are all linked on this slide. Team Nutrition is another resource. It's an initiative of the USDA Food and Nutrition Service to support child nutrition programs through training and technical assistance. There are team nutrition materials available to schools that do participate in child nutrition program. It has posters, some tip sheets, guides, some recipes, some stickers, infographics, even webinars. So please click on that link and it'll take you to Team Nutrition. Louisiana Fit Kids, like I said before, has several resources for school food services. Under the resources tab, you can find information about reducing food waste, school breakfast, smarter lunchrooms, smart snacks, summer meals, team nutrition, and unpaid meal charges. Under the training tab is where you register for trainings and when you can find where you can also find the previous trainings recording and slides, and that goes back several years. And then under the interactive tools tab is where you find information on meal patterns and menus, as well as your professional standards. On this slide, I just linked the USDA Food Nutrition Services website. There's a wealth of information on there. It was just too much to list, but if you click on that link, it will take you to the Food Nutrition Services of the USDA. So now let's talk about some upcoming trainings. So here are, oh, I'm sorry, I still have August left on here. I thought I took some of them off, but no, it didn't happen yet. It's been a long day, guys. So on August 13th, it is offer versus serve. We talked about that on a previous memo. August 20th is that claims for reimbursement. Katie will be putting together a training. She's basically the claims guru right now. So she will be putting together a claims for reimbursement training. And then civil rights will be on August 27th. In September, the monthly call will be on September 3rd. And then we will have a verification training on September 17th. And then we talked about this on previous calls as well, but I was just going to continue to remind people, save the date for that upcoming Team Up procurement training. That will be on November 19th at Pennington. Again, we will have more information the closer that we get to it. And this basically, this Urban School Food Alliance has this co-op agreement with USDA to provide these team up trainings around the country relating to procurement. It seeks to improve the procurement practices for districts of all sizes, both rural and non-rural. And through the review and assessment of the current rules, practices, and training materials, including the expertise of stakeholders involved all along the supply chain, this project will provide school nutrition leaders with easy to use procurement tools and a voice in the process. So for more information, if you would like to learn more about the Urban School Food Alliance, you can go to their website. That is linked on this slide. But like I said, the closer the training gets, the more information we'll be able to provide to you about it. Okay, and with that, that ends today's call. I see we have some questions in the chat box, so I will look at those. I'm not exactly sure what the first question is referring to. Is that for charter schools? But the second question is about the self-certification for charter schools. Yes, that is for everyone. The micro purchase threshold, that is for everyone. Okay, so the site operating at another location includes silent. This is it, the part about multiple site is if you have a school that is at one location and they are on the Schedule A. But there's another school a few miles away down the road that you are claiming meals for, but that school is not on the Schedule A. That is whenever you would complete that section that says, yes, you are operating. Basically, you're operating two sites, but on our Schedule A, it looks as like you're only operating one site. And if you need more specific or more details, just give us a call when we can explain as you're working through your application if you need to complete that section to say that you have a different site operating. The guidebook that is for the codes is called the LAUGH manual, LAUGH. Yes, the net cash resource plan is of the 23-24 school year. So anything on the income and expense report is related to the 23-24 school year. If I can find the slide with the actual words for the LAUGH manual, I will try to get that back to you so you can write it down because I forget it. I just call it the LAUGH manual. Did I not have it in the slide? I'm so sorry, I can't find it. Here we go. It's actually the Louisiana Accounting and Uniform Governmental Handbook. Yes, the forms that are on the website are the most recent forms. Someone is asking about the diet prescription forms. That is the one that is on the website, currently on the website. If anyone else has any questions, you can always give us a call at 225-342-9661 or email us at childnutritionprograms@la.gov. As you're working through your applications, please, if there's an error or something that comes up or something it seems wrong, please let us know. So we did some testing, but we always end up finding more things as we go along. So please let us know about that. But always refer back to that training with the slides step by step on how to do it, especially with the new sections. I'm just doing a quick scan through the chat to make sure answered all the questions. All right. I am not seeing any more questions. Like I said before, give us a call or send us an email if you have any additional questions. I hope everyone has a great start to the school year, and as least chaotic as possible. So, with that, we will see you on the next call. Thank you.